Our responsibility is to ask someone who is knowledgeable, someone who is qualified, and we try our best to find the person who is the most qualified. But beyond that, the person has to be someone who is trustworthy. And we trust them in two areas, in two senses. Number one, we trust them in their deen. We trust that obviously nobody is perfect, but we trust that they try their best to stay away from major sins, and overall they try their best to follow Islam and to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of their ability. But beyond that, we also trust we trust them to convey what they believe to be the most correct. So we trust them that they're not going to tell us something because they think that's what we want to hear. Right? Sometimes somebody may tell you something because they may feel bad for you or whatever it may be, that they may hold back from what they believe to be most correct or what they think is the correct answer because they just want to tell you what you want to hear. So you trust them in their deen and you trust them to convey the message. And lastly, and this is an added point, is that it has to be someone who is accessible. And this is where the problem occurs, and that's why I said sometimes we are almost forced into a situation where we have to ask random people. So the average person, or you may talk to someone out there, and you ask them like, who do you think is qualified and who do you trust? And they may say someone's name. Let's say they say Sheikh Qadi, for example, right? Now, my question would be, is that individual accessible to you? Right? Yeah, I know you trust him and so on and so forth, but can you call him up and say, hey, I have this problem, I have this issue, what is your answer? Can you give me a ruling? Can you email them? Can you message them? When you're in a tight situation, do you have access to that person? And I would imagine that for most people, these national speakers or these international speakers, we don't have access to them. So it has to be someone that we have access to. And then the question comes about, well, what if there isn't a scholar in my local community that is qualified? That I look at my local community and I just see like students of knowledge and people who there's some people who are self-taught and there's some people who are in the process of studying, and there's some people who have studied, but I don't think they're qualified to give me a fatwa or they're qualified to give me an answer. What do I do in that case? Well, in that case, it is the responsibility of the students of knowledge that you find a student of knowledge that you trust. Once again, the same conditions. You trust them in their knowledge, that they're qualified to a certain degree. You trust their deen, and you trust them to go to the right places. So at that point, it becomes the job of the student of knowledge to go get access to that knowledge, to speak to the scholars, to speak to someone who can get you the correct answer. And that is how that responsibility goes on.